Hi, I'm Danger Dan Jers, the host and GM of the D&D Real Play podcast, D&D Dark. Join us on Wednesdays for an absurd, over-the-top comedy horror adventure, starring some of history's most infamous monsters.
I'm Ben Magnet. I play Mary Frankenstein, our barbarian.
I am Daniel Cruz. I am playing Imhotep the Mummy, our cleric.
I'm Jordan, and I play Larry Talbot, a lycanthropic warlock.
I am Grayson, playing Jet Griffin, the Invisible Man, the party's rogue.
I am Aaron. I play the Phantom of the Opera, our bard.
For more information, go to dndarkpodcast.com and listen to us anywhere you find podcasts.
Hey everybody, this is Davis over at Con Freaks and Geeks, and I would like to welcome you to another episode of Pop Culture Gems. This is a series where we talk to amazing creators, artists, cosplayers, voice actors, and so much more. If you like the interviews we do with the amazing guests, give us a thumbs up or subscribe to our YouTube channel, the CFG channel on YouTube, or you can listen to it on any podcast services out there, like Apple, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, what have you, anyone, anywhere, where we are always there. And if you want to check out the fantastic geeky content all in one whole area, go to our main website, confreaksandgeeks.com, for the whole package. My guest today is a force in the voice acting world. He's played characters in gaming and animes like Gran from Gran Blue Fantasy and Gran Blue Fantasy Versus, Genta Doi from High Score Girl, Yushiro in Demon Slayer, and the ever so popular 9S from Nier Automata. I would like to welcome Kyle McCarley to the show. How are you doing, Kyle?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I am trying to stay warm right now, but as always. So it's surprisingly it's more complicated than I thought it should be, but it is. It's a fight.
Oh, well, man. I appreciate the warm welcome. You make me feel not so chilly. So,
that's cool. That's cool. I definitely enjoy it. But let's get into it, man. So as always ask this for everybody. Let me just tell us a little about yourself. Like, who is Kyle McCarley?
Well, sure. Well, as you mentioned, I am a voice actor. You gave a couple credits from my list, which is some interesting choices in there. High Score Girl. That's not one that gets brought up all that often.
You know what's funny to me though, like your voice is very distinctive. So like when I'm watching and listening, because this is the stuff theoretically when I go through the list, it's lists of series or games that I've played that I'm like, hey, that sounds like sounds like Kyle McCarley. So yeah,
okay.
It's like. That's the little game I like to play, to be a little different, you know?
Yeah. As for who I am, I mean, I'm aside from being a voice actor, I'm a married man, a father of fur babies, 3 of them. We've got 2 dogs and a cat. You might hear one of the dogs yapping because he's been particularly boisterous lately. I'm a big hockey fan, big Colorado Avalanche fan, and I love board games. That's nice. A little about me.
Oh, I love that. What kind of board games do you usually like to play? Do you like playing those, like, you know, Settlers of Catan, or the kind of, you know, like Monopolies, or what?
I am big on, well, I'm definitely bigger on the newer generation stuff, like the Euro gaming style stuff. But I was big on the party game type of things, like One Night Ultimate Werewolf, or Dixit was a lot of fun. I'm trying to think of some of our Bonanza's one that we've been playing. We were playing a lot pre-pandemic. There's kind of an assortment. It's a wide variety, but I was big on the simple, big group, 30-minute max playtime stuff. And now on my Twitch channel, I do a board game show with some buddies of mine, and we've been getting into the heavier, like hardcore board game stuff, and I'm starting to appreciate that more. For a long time I avoided that stuff, and now I'm kind of like, you know what? There's a time and a place for these more lengthy, smaller player count games. So.
You know those long lengthy games, like usually call those friendship breakers, because that's what because people get on edge, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's like no, but I'm definitely with you. Like, I think the werewolf one was the werewolf one, the one where you have like you use your phone, right? For it, where you have to choose like who you got to find out who the werewolf is and stuff, and take them out. Yeah, I love. Yeah, you're right. Those games are really fun. So. That's
a lot
cool.
of fun, yeah, and it's over in 5 minutes or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really fun to be able to just play it real quick and move on to the next round, or okay, we've played it 4 or 5 times, let's move on to something else.
Right. When the game where you have to pause the game by leaving everything in the board and then say, okay, we'll come back another time to do it. The game's too long.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. All right.
Well, I'm starting to appreciate those kinds of games now, but yeah, that used to be my mindset for sure.
Yeah, but now it's like we don't have a choice. I mean, now it's kind of like we're bored. Now we're just like we're stuck in our houses sometimes, and we're like, you know what? It's like let's just go with it, and we'll accept it. But I bet you when everything kind of goes back to normal, you'll be back on that wagon saying this is not acceptable.
Yeah. Back on the horse of no, 3 hours is too long to be playing the same game.
Like, I got stuff to do, you know? Oh God. All right. Well, growing up, were you a part of the like early anime fandoms, you know, like, and if so, like, did you have any favorites and favorite series when you were growing up?
Yeah, I've never been a huge anime fan, but when I was growing up, Toonami was an after school block on Cartoon Network, so it was airing around like 3 or 4 o'clock start time or something like that. So I watched Toonami religiously, or at least as much of it as I could get home in time for, because living in the central time zone, I think there was like an hour that was like iffy for us.
Yeah,
But I watched a lot of DBZ. I watched Gundam Wing was my favorite for sure as a kid, which made me real. I realized kind of a childhood dream I didn't fully appreciate that I knew I had when I booked Mikazuki in Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans. Because that was my first. I'm going off on a tangent now, but that was my first lead role in an anime series. First time being it checked off a lot of boxes for me. First time being on TV. A whole bunch of firsts in my career, and I got to play a Gundam pilot, and Gundam Wing was my favorite anime as a kid. So like I showed up to school in middle school on a regular school day in full cosplay before that was even a term.
Wow,
so
that's pretty.
I was a pretty big fan of Gundam Wing. Now, but other than the stuff that was on Toonami, I was not a huge anime fan. I didn't stick with it the way that I know a lot of diehard anime fans did.
You know, back in that time though, like but back in the day, like during that time, I mean, anime was incredibly sparse, though. I mean, like they didn't even give it. Yeah, so like I mean, like I think in America, like the window when it was like, I mean, don't get me wrong, anime's been around for forever. Like, you know, Akira, then you had like BattleTech and all that stuff. But when it was when there was more serious diversity when it came to anime back in that time, we didn't have it. Like really the opening of that was like Dragon Ball, and the Toonami block was where, and Pokemon and all that stuff. But like, no, I mean, but
broke into the mainstream. Yeah.
So like, I mean, then when you're saying, I mean, with Gundam, and then if Gundam is the one that inspired you to cosplay at school, which I have to say, give you kudos to, because I was like, man, you are more man than me to ever do that. But the Gundam.
I think we had so. The story behind that is that me and my buddies in middle school were like, we had all picked a character from Gundam Wing that was our character. Like, and there are a slew of Gundam pilots in that show. So there was a group of like 8 or 9 of us that were all like, I'm this character, I'm that character. I was Katra. And I think we had me and one of my buddies whose pilot was Duo.
Mhm.
We had some like school project thing where we were flying, I don't know, something to do with like little model airplane things or rubber band based plane things that we were trying to go a certain distance. So we had a loose excuse for wearing pilot costumes for the day. I'd have to ask him like why we decided to do that on that particular day. But I know it wasn't just totally out of the blue. It was still, nobody else was showing up in costume that day.
I will say this though. I mean, if one of y'all were like Hero, when because his attire was bicycle shorts and a singlet shirt, and then just go up to space. It's like, wow, okay,
Yep.
you're just business casual, I guess, aren't you?
And I remember the dress code. The dress code at the school, for some reason, they had an issue with my friend's Duo jacket. Like he wasn't
What?
allowed to wear a jacket throughout the day. So
That's weird.
he was like, but it's part of my costume. I gotta wear.
It's like, let me in. Not wearing that jacket. You won't. Oh,
Yeah.
That's odd. That's very odd for them to I know.
I don't. Again, I'd have to ask him what exactly happened. He's got a better memory than me.
Oh, that's so funny. But it's cool though. What I love about that story though is the fact that you said that Gundam kind of made you the stepping was the Iron-Blooded Orphan was the stepping stone that kind of got your career more serious or more motivated to do more roles.
No, I was breaking in to the industry for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a big stepping stone into bigger and better things, because it was kind of a breakthrough moment in terms of the kinds of roles that I was booking. Because up to that
That's
point,
awesome.
I'd worked on Durarara and Fate Stay Night and Your Lie in April. I think I was actively working on when I booked Gundam. So I was working on a few projects here and there, but always as supporting characters. I'd never gotten, like, that was the first lead character that I had booked. So it was a big breakthrough moment in the career for sure. Yeah.
That's cool, man. And then I have to say though, kind of back to your Gundam Wing though, like Catra, was Catra your favorite Gundam though? Like out of all of those, out of all the 5 of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, it was, I probably, like, if I had been watching it in isolation, I probably would have identified Duo as my favorite character in the show, because he's the coolest character in the show.
Everyone loves Duo though. Everyone loves Duo.
Yeah. But since
Cool.
since all of my friends were all picking one character, being able to analyze and go, you know what? Catra's the character that is most like me. I'm going with him.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that. But it's funny. Like if I had to choose a Gundam for me, I really liked G Gundam, and the Gundam that I kind of associate myself to was Mexico's Gundam, because I loved, for some reason, that Gundam itself. It's like for them to say, let's put a sombrero on a giant robot, and I'm like, you know what? Things happened, and y'all said yes to that, and I'm definitely on board with that. So yes, let's go with that. Mexico Gundam is my favorite. I wish they made models of it.
Do they not? Surely they
No,
do.
they don't.
They've got Gunpla for everything. No?
Cal, I have been looking for years for a Mexico Gundam model, and I have never found one. Like,
Wow.
I have never found. I would love to get that just to say that it exists, but it does not exist whatsoever. Like, if
Tragedy.
it is very much so.
There's so and the whole franchise exists to sell those toys,
I know, right? I know. It's like it's not popular enough. Apparently, I need to start making angry letters to Bandai. I don't know. We'll see. And I popped into your Twitch stream yesterday, like randomly, and I'd have to say, like,
okay,
there was so much mayhem with your friend when you were playing Aliens. And well, first off, what game was that? I never saw that game, that version of Aliens before. Was that?
So you tuned in to my Thursday night broadcast, which is the Quarren stream, We started doing it during the pandemic with nothing better going on a Thursday nights. And it's just me and my buddies playing a variety of multiplayer video games. Started out as the co-op Quarren stream because it was just 4 of us. So we were focusing on co-op games, which Alien Swarm Reactive Drop was the game we were playing. It's free to play on Steam. And it's like 5 or 6 or 10 years old at this point. I don't know. We end up going...
Wow.
We end up going to the well for a lot of the games that we pick out for that broadcast, because we're always trying to pick stuff because now the group has grown to, I think we've got 9 guys now, that anywhere from 6 to 9 of us show up on any given Thursday night. And so we try to pick games that are either free or super cheap. And some of the guys don't have great internet connections or great hardware to play games with. So we pick stuff that's low resource demands in terms of games. So we go for some obscure old games to play sometimes on that broadcast.
Oh man, what was one of the most obscure that you've played on that on the broadcast before?
Gosh, the first one that I want to mention is regular human basketball. That
I know what you're talking about.
Might be my favorite. It's a super indie game that I think is $5 on Steam per copy. And as soon as I saw the trailer that they put out for it, I was like, guys, you got to pony up the cash for this one. We have to play this. So it's teams of, I think you can have up to 10 players in the game total. And it's a one-on-one basketball game, except the basketball players are giant robots that have a bunch of buttons inside of them, and you as the players run around inside the robots and push the buttons to control them and make them play basketball against each other. It's absolute mayhem. It's like Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time, but 2 robots and with more people, so more chaos. And you can jump into each other's robots and try to sabotage and stuff. It's so much fun.
That is hilarious. You were not kidding when you said really abstract and different. Yes. But that is awesome. And you do this every Thursday on Twitch?
Every Thursday night. That's honestly, it's a Twitch stream that is just an excuse for me and buddies of mine from high school and college to get together and play video games.
Fair enough. Doesn't take much to get to have that nowadays, but still, it's all good. That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed watching like the craziness when y'all were trying to, like, I think y'all blew yourselves up, and I was like, what is going on? Why is just like all this stuff?
That happened a lot last night. Yeah. Alien Swarm was a game that was designed to be a 4-player co-op game, and they at some point added 8-player support, so we were playing with 7 people on maps that were designed for 4 with more aliens swarming us. So it's just utter chaos.
That is so funny. That's great. Like, kind of going back to your, like, your voice acting career itself,
sure.
Was there a role that you played that was harder than you expected when you got it?
Oh man, there's a variety of challenges that'll come up in the process of this career, and a lot of them are more technical than they are craft based. But the first thing that comes to my mind when you ask that question would be I'm the voice of Alm in Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia, as well as Fire Emblem Heroes. My first session for that character, I don't know if it was the way that some of the lines were written or what it was, but for the first hour or so, every time you're playing a new character, there's a feeling out period where you're trying to like settle into like what is the head space for this character, what makes this guy tick, and what are his his defining character traits. You kind of figure that out as you go along in the early stages. But with Alm in particular, I remember in the first hour or so of the very first session, I really wanted to make him kind of a little bit snarky. I wanted to give him some wry, smirk humor to a lot of his deliveries, and that is not the character at all. And they kept on having to reel me in and go, no, totally straight. He's not. There's no sarcasm in this line. He means what he's saying here. So I had to turn that part of my brain off for Alm, because I wanted to be sarcastic, because that's who I am, and that wasn't in there for him.
Was that really that? So you just naturally gravitated to what you naturally are, but really he was like the polar opposite of what you're supposed to have.
I mean, he's anime JRPG protag, you know? He's cookie cutter, like go-getter, honest, like genuine, always supports everybody, and there were just some lines in there. I can't remember anything specific, but I know there were some things in there where I was like, oh, so he's kind of poking fun at this person. No, he's not. He's not making fun of them at all. He means exactly what he's saying.
Oh, he's literal. He's very literal. I see.
Yeah.
Oh man. Has there ever been the time where you can have those kind of, decisions to make the character the way you wanted it to be? Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a very collaborative process. It's just you also have to recognize that you're trying to you're bringing yourself to it, but you're also trying to honor the creator's vision. And especially when you're talking about localized content like a JRPG that's coming from Japan, or an anime that's coming from Japan, or something like that, then as an actor who's localizing the game or dubbing the show, you're now also trying to honor the original Japanese creation, as well as the American director and writer that are collaborating with it. So it's a very collaborative process. Nobody gets carte blanche in the whole thing. Everybody's working together to create the character and the story that you're telling.
That's cool. That's cool, because I've always want the whole process, especially specifically like anime and stuff like that. I didn't know how much freedom an individual like voice acting would be that way, specifically since they're, like you were saying, they built the character specifically in a specific way. They've already done it,
right?
And then when you're doing English dub versions of the same character, it's like, do they give you that same kind of freedom to kind of go with it and stuff? So I was just a little curious about that. That's pretty cool.
It varies for sure. I mean, when I'm wearing the T-shirt today, I'm for Infinity Train. That character, I feel like I had a little bit more freedom to create. I voiced Simon on that cartoon show, and so there's a little bit more room because of the fact that it's original animation as opposed to dubbing or localizing. So there's a little bit more freedom there, and you're also earlier in the process. The scripts have been written, obviously, but the animation's not done yet. We're working off of storyboards, not even full like animatics, but storyboards. And in some of those types of shows where it's original animation, the storyboards aren't even done yet. So when you're the earlier you come into the process as an actor, the more freedom you have to kind of make it your own and ad lib a little bit here and there. Maybe, hey, I've got an idea for this line. Can I pitch this to you, and we'll just see if this fits or not. But it depends on the project. It depends on the show. I know for video games, typically you kind of stick to the script that's in front of you. You might add a little bit here and there, just like pre-life or maybe a stutter or a stammer or something, but you're not really going to change things all that much. Whereas anime, just by the nature of the beast, there's going to be a lot of lines that come up where, because you're trying to record to picture and trying to match the mouth flaps, there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes up no matter how good the script is, how great the adaptation is, where it just doesn't fit those flaps. So you have to figure out something else. That's typically the director's job, but you as the actor can always go, hey, I've got an idea. Let me try something else. And sometimes I'll throw stuff out there that's completely different from what's in the script, completely different maybe than what the literal translation was for that particular line, but it still serves the purposes of the scene and the story. So sometimes they'll take it. Oftentimes they won't, but it's kind of It varies from project to project, I guess, is the point that I'm trying to make.
It's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. I
Right.
understand. Definitely understand that. Yeah. And I mean, and to you, is anime voiceover harder than gaming or vice versa? And if so, like why?
It's different. It's just a completely different animal. Because it's anime acting for a dub, whether anime or live action dub. I do a lot of live action dubbing as well. That's very technical because of the fact that you're trying to make sure that it looks like the person on screen or the character on screen is saying what you're saying. And that's already been locked. The picture's already in place, usually. So having to fit within someone else's performance or somebody's animation adds a little bit of a left brain element to a typically right brain field of creating stuff. So it makes it more it's definitely more technically challenging. But then at the same time, video games, the script, just the nature of the medium, there's a whole lot of stuff that isn't necessarily sequential order. So you could be jumping around because the player could play things in a different order. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that can come in at various points in the playthrough, and trying to figure out, especially if your character goes on a big arc throughout the story, being able to find nuance that fits in any situation, no matter when the player might happen to get there. And then also depending on projects, I've worked on some video games where just because of the way that the production is being run or the way that the game is structured, I only see my character's lines in the script. I don't know context for where all that stuff fits. So that poses a whole different set of challenges. So it's just different.
Oh man, like I don't even know how. So like, how do you even adjust for that? Those are kind of situations where it's just your line specifically. Like, so
in a situation like that, you kind of like. It's funny because it's not uncommon to have that when you're auditioning for projects, and in that case, you want to make specific choices. So you kind of make up your own context for the audition and add your own flavor to it. And it could be completely off base for what the actual context is in the project that you're auditioning for. But because you make a specific choice, you stand out better than if you play it safe and do something generic. When you're in an actual work environment and all they're giving you are your lines, I mean, the first thing you can do is ask, what's the situation here? What's the context? Why am I saying this? You can infer some things from, context clues, like based on the line. Okay, I know I'm talking to this character. I know what like based on, we're not far removed from the last line. I kind of know where we're at. I can assume where this fits into the conversation. But as a general rule, you do play it a little safer there and give performances that are a little bit more generic and a little bit more, this will fit no matter what the context is. And that's a decision. That's a decision that the director has to make too, where they're like, because I've directed projects where I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. Give me a couple ideas and let's see. And then I'll listen to the take and go, okay, that's the one that's going to work in more situations. We'll go with that one.
That's cool. That's cool. And out of like all the characters that you voiced, I mean, you voiced quite a bit of them. Which one would you say is the closest to your own personality? Or if there's some, I mean, you don't have to be specifically one. It could be multiple ones if you have.
Oh man, that is such a hard question to ask. I mean, like every character I book has got to be somewhere inside of me. I think, because otherwise they would have given it to somebody else. But I would say honestly, the character that I feel like I slipped into the easiest was probably 9S from Nier. I don't know if that's because I feel like at least in the early game, 9S is a pretty straightforward character. At least the way that I wrapped my head around him, I was like, oh, I get this guy. I know exactly who he is. And he lives very near to my baseline personality, I think, at least in the early game. And then he goes on a very interesting story arc throughout the course of the game, and kind of ends up somewhere completely different. But none of us are two-dimensional people, so we have experiences that are outside of the baseline all the time. So I think that I don't know. I think the reason that he was so easy to slip into, though, was because of the fact that it's just so well written.
He was a practical thinker. I will say that. Like, he was definitely a practical thinker. Like, he was very straightforward on with the rules initially. I definitely could see where you're coming from with that.
He was, but he also had a little bit of that wry flavor to him that I wanted to give to Alm and couldn't. There was still a little bit of that playfulness in there. So I could tap into that pretty easily. Honestly, it's just like the Nier franchise, the Draken Nier franchise. I've become such a big fan of Yoko Taro and everything he does.
That series is insane. It's amazing. It's great.
And it's just so the story is just so well crafted. It's not hard to comprehend why characters end up making the choices they make. Even if you wouldn't make them, or you don't, even if you disagree with the choices that they make, you still understand where they're coming from and why they're doing what they're doing. So that's to me probably the reason that 9S was so easy for me to just jump right into it and go for it.
That's fair. That's fair. Are you like? Have you played? Oh no, you definitely did play. I saw you do the stream with Kira like a couple years ago, but it's been a while. Yeah, but are you going to Are you looking forward to the new one, Nier Replicant? I believe
so excited.
April? Yeah,
I'm so excited. I can't wait to play that game.
Man, it's like it's weird because like when Nier Automata came, it didn't really have a lot of fanfare when that came out. But like the people who did play it, like, I mean, I played them because I played the original one, I played Drakengard and all that stuff. It's just like, I don't know how this game cannot be like it's pretty much a borderline masterpiece in my opinion, because with the music, the style, everything, like you were saying, Yoko Taro was great. Plus, what you and your cast, like Jeremy, Kira, like it added to it was just a really good experience overall. So like. I think, no problem. But like, gotta give props to give props, but like, I loved it. But just to say, when they said Replicant, I'm like, okay, I have no idea what this game is about, because as always with Nier, it's like I don't know what to expect, and that's the one thing I really definitely love about like what to expect on the upcoming one, which is making me really hyped for it.
Well, it's. I think they're loosely referring to it as a remaster of Nier,
the first one,
like the prequel to Nier Automata. Yeah. But so like I've learned a lot about this franchise from my fans and from having now gone back and played through some of the, because Automata was my first experience to the whole franchise. I played through like after being in it, I then played through the whole game. I fell in love. I went back and played original Nier, or some of it. I went back later on. I went back and played Drakengard 3, then and came back to the rest of original Nier, or vice versa. I don't remember. Anyway, I played through those two games as well now. But the story behind Nier Replicant version 1.22, whatever the hell those numbers are, they're in the official title. It's so back when the first Nier game came out in Japan. The main character, Nier, was Yona's brother. It was a young man character. And for whatever reason, they decided when they ported it over to the US that the U.S. audience wouldn't relate to that young man protagonist as well, or something like that. So they decided to make him the father figure. They made him Father Nier instead. So there's 2 different versions of the original Nier game. And I think Japan ended up with both of them at one point. I think they ended up putting out. So there was Nier Replicant, which is Brother Nier, and then there was Nier Gestalt, which is Papa Nier, Father Nier, which is the one that we got in the States.
That was one of the PS3, right? Like the original one. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So Nier Replicant version 1.2234, whatever. That is a remaster of Nier Replicant, the original release. And I think they've added some new stuff to it as well, because they just put out like 9 minutes of new footage today on Twitter. On the game. And watching it, I was like, that seems like it's a little different from how that played out in the story in the version of Nier that I played through.
I don't remember the original. It's been so long for the first one, but I hate when Japan does that when they're like, US crowd won't relate to this. It's like, this is Nier. Most of the stuff is going to be really kind of unrelatable in general. Like, I don't know.
Taro hated the decision too, and that's why he's like, no. Now that I have some clout, now I get to say, no, we're doing it this way.
It's like, come on. It's like it's all over. It's like the Final Fantasy numbering back in the days, like back in the 90s. It's like, Americans don't know RPGs. That might be too hard for them. So let's just give them 4, 6 Mystic Quest. We'll build one from scratch and see what we're going to do with that. You know, I mean, it's like, give us more credit, please, Japan. Come on, we're not stupid. But anyways,
I get it, because there are definitely cultural differences, but I agree. I think there are times when it makes sense, and there are times when you're going a little too far.
Okay, there's a difference between like saying, okay, this wouldn't make sense in an American's thing. More like if it's like something that's specifically like a cultural thing in the country of Japan, or if it's taking place in Japan, and then it's like it makes sense to them, but wouldn't make sense to us. I can understand that, but they're making fantasy worlds, and they're making these decisions of like saying, oh, they won't understand the specific dragon on what, like where he's coming from. It's like, there's no such thing as a real life dragon. Why are you making that decision for us already? You know, it's like there's no understanding on it.
It comes from a financial place, right? It's the decision of like, well, more people will buy it in America if there's less of that fantastical element. I mean, that's not the case anymore, but 20, 30 years ago, maybe they thought, that fantasy stuff is too nerdy for Americans. We gotta water it down. I don't know.
Or how about this one? Here's a really random one. What about Street Fighter? You remember Street Fighter 2 when they said, okay, we're going to make Bison, original Bison, his name is Vega when he originally came out. And then they changed the names because they're like saying, because they made like Balrog was actual, his name was Bison. And they decided to do a flip because they were saying that they didn't want to confuse Bison, which is Balrog, as Mike Tyson. And I'm like, that is the most pettiest thing I've ever, like, why would you do that?
Yeah,
it's like, I mean, it's like those kind of decision making is like, but you kept the names, but you just changed it in circulation. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's just funny. I'm just saying, people are weird. That's where it comes down to.
Yeah.
All right. And I didn't know this until recently, but you also made you also are a part of doing script adaptations for Crunchyroll series. I've been fascinated by that process, by adapting scripts from Japan to the US. And since you've done it firsthand, I just kind of want to get your take on it. Like, how involved do you have to adjust the script, since I'm sure there are situations that are not directly translatable.
Oh yeah. So I got into script adaptation because working as an actor, I worked on one too many projects where I was like, this script is bad, and I want to be part of the solution to the problem. And it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do, because you are trying to make dialogue that sounds the way that people talk,
Mhm.
B, make dialogue that fits the character and fits the story, and C, also you've got to stay true to like the original translation, at least as best you can, and D, also you got to fit the flaps and the timing. So there's a whole lot that goes into it. I think it's extremely underappreciated. I think as far as dubbing goes, and honestly with video games as well, when you're localizing a game, but that I think all of that adaptation is done in house at the studio with somebody who's hopefully paid appropriately for it. Um, but when it comes to anime, like I think the writing, the script adaptation is first, second, and third in order of importance for a dub. Then comes the acting and the directing and the engineering and all of that stuff, which all of that stuff is important to making a good dub. But I feel like a great actor, a great script can make a bad actor sound pretty good. And a great actor can only do so much with a bad script. So I think that the script is a number one most important piece of the puzzle.
Very underrated. You're totally right about that.
It's extremely underappreciated and underpaid. But as far as how it goes, the process kind of goes where somebody has already done a translation, somebody who speaks both the original language and English, or at least some English, enough English to convey this is what they're saying literally. They put that down first, and sometimes all I get as the script adapter is the subtitle script, basically, which is an adaptation. This is something that I don't think a lot of fans totally understand. I think some fans think that if they're watching a subtitled anime, they're getting something that's more true to the original meaning. But that's not the case. It is also an adaptation because it's just with a different objective. When we adapt stuff for a dub, we are trying to localize a little bit more of the cultural stuff, but we're also trying to fit that timing. When somebody's adapting for a subtitle, they're trying to keep things brief enough to where you can read text and still see what's happening on the screen. So they're summarizing things for you in a subtitle adaptation. So it's not the true translation any more than the dub is. So anyway, I work off of a translated copy of the script, and I go through and I watch what's happening on the screen, and I try and you have to speak it out loud, kind of sort of in the character, so that you kind of get a feel for how they sound, because you don't want an old man to say words that sound like a teenager or vice versa. So you kind of I kind of put on voices that are kind of like if I'm writing for the young anime female pro tag, I'll kind of do something like this while I'm while I'm saying the lines out loud, and I'll preview it once, just watching the Japanese. I'll go back and play it, and like I'll look at the translation while I'm watching it, and I'll always watch an entire episode with the translation next to me before I start adapting. And then I'll go back and play the line and say out loud the first thought that comes to my head on, will this, sometimes it's literally what the translation column says. Let's see if that will fit. And if it does, great, we'll move on. If it doesn't, then I'll try and add some stuff to it. Or if it sounds a little bit, not entirely the way that people speak, I'll try and finagle it and change word order, or sometimes completely throw it out and write something new. And you just kind of go line by line until you've got the whole script done.
Wow, that sounds like a very strenuous process in my imagine, especially since series.
It's like pulling teeth. It's yeah. It's thankless. It is not a lot of fun. It is solving a puzzle, and it can feel rewarding when you get to the end of it. In my experience, most of the time it doesn't. It's just like it's kind of like, oh, thank God that's over. All right, on to the next one.
Oh God, that sounds horrible. Just like
I don't do it a lot. I try to be very picky about what projects I take on now as a writer, because it takes a lot out of me, and kudos to the folks that do it on a regular basis.
What series have you done that process in?
I did the script adaptation for a little over half of the episodes of Gundam Build Divers. I did a couple episodes of Inazuma 11 Aries. I did the second Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel movie. I did the last 10 episodes or 15 episodes or whatever it was of Rising of the Shield Hero.
Oh, wow.
I did a few episodes. I wrote the first 5 episodes of Great Pretender on Netflix. Highly recommend that show. It's a lot of fun.
That?
I adapted the first 5 episodes. I directed the second 5.
What? Oh, dude, that series is awesome. I have to say,
it's so good. I love it.
Yes.
And then I wrote the last 4 of the series, I think.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah.
Man, that is crazy. I really hope that there's going to be a new season of that. They have to. I mean,
they left the door open.
They left the door so wide open. Yeah. Everyone's retired. Everyone had the happy ending, and then you found that. Oh no, I'm not going to spoil it. But no, guys, you need to watch Great Pretender, dude. That is
it's so good. It's so
very good series.
And I'm really proud of how it turned out too.
Oh yeah, it literally came out of nowhere to me. I mean, because I don't usually watch anime as much. I'm more like reading them because you get the whole story faster. Personally, but when sometimes with Netflix does these exclusives, I watch a couple just to see if it catches my interest. And when Great Pretender came in, I was like, oh, so this is like an Ocean's 11 kind of situation, and then it just gets better and better. It's just like, oh my God, yeah, definitely love it.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Oh man, that was like one of my picks for last year's, second seasons, I would say. But okay, got one more question for you, and this is actually kind of funny, and because like we said before, I saw you do the stream with Kira playing Nier Automata a couple years ago, but and I talked to Kira specifically not that long ago on this, and she told me that one of her regrets was that she was not able to get you to do a 9S cosplay with her as 2B. I was wondering what would it take for you to make that happen? I mean, you don't want a sad Kira Buckland. Come on.
That's true. You don't.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's get everybody vaccinated, and that's my big wish for the year or the next 2 years or however long it takes. Get everybody vaccinated, and we'll talk.
Oh man, okay. You know what? I'm gonna send that to Kira too, so we can see if we make that happen. She said she tried a lot. She tried the choke. She's like, she gave you a choker or something, I'm like,
she did, and my dog ate it not that long ago because it was hanging on one of my mic stands, and I think it fell off, and the dog ate it up, so it's gone now.
Oh no! Okay, well, don't tell that to Kira. If that's the case,
yeah. I'll have to get a new one.
Oh man, that's terrible. But man, hey, well, Kyle, thank you so much for geeking out with me as always, man. It was really cool talking to you as always.
Thanks for having me.
It's really cool. But if in this part, we usually like to reserve this part for if there's anything that you're working on that you can discuss or plug. If you like to plug, Twitch, whatever. Is there anything you'd like to plug for what you're doing?
Yeah, if you guys are into watching stuff on Twitch, I'm on twitch.tv/Kyle McCarley. In addition to the Quarren stream, which we talked about, which is a really chaotic broadcast, I play board games on Friday nights. So tonight, actually, as we're recording this, at 7:30 Pacific time. I play board games in a very interactive show called The Board and Barrel with some friends of mine. And on Saturdays at noon Pacific, I play games pertaining to my voiceover career, stuff that I've voiced or stuff that is a prequel to the stuff that I've voiced in the case of Dragon Guard 3 or Nier. So
that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. And stuff that I'm working on. What can I talk about? I can talk about Monster Hunter Rise comes out next month. I am the voice of Buddy Handler Iori. And I think Mr. Osomatsu Season 1 is finally coming out on Blu-ray next month as well. I think it's next month in March. They're finally putting out Season 1. I've been working on Mr. Osomatsu worked on it for 3 years, dubbing it, and we announced the cast back in August 2018, I think, at a convention.
Is that the one with the siblings, like the sextuplets?
The sextuplets, yeah.
Oh my god,
It's
totally
a
forgot
very
about
funny
that.
show. It's a very funny show, and I'm so glad that it's finally seeing the light of day in some capacity.
Yeah,
the dub.
that is what took was it a limbo or something? Like, why did it take so long? That's crazy.
I could not begin to speculate. I think it had something to do. Honestly, my theory, I'm probably saying more than I ever should, but my theory is that Viz decided to do a big show of it at that what convention was that? Anime Weekend Atlanta. That's where we were. I think they decided to make a big show of it because that's one of the big anime cons where all the different publishers need to showcase something, and Viz was like, we don't have much else. Let's showcase this. Let's see if we can get some interest. Maybe we can put it on Toonami or something. And it didn't pan out for them, so they just kind of shelved it for a while. We didn't work on it for like 10 months at one point, and then we came back to it. I don't know. I probably just said way more behind the scenes information than I ever should have, but we did finish working on it. It's ready, and it's coming out on Blu-ray next month. So pick up a copy.
I think it's actually on Amazon Prime right now too, or Prime Video, so you could actually watch the series.
Is it?
Yeah,
no, probably not dubbed yet though. I don't think the dub's out.
The first season? Oh no, you're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right.
It's probably just the subtitle. Yeah,
yeah.
The Blu-ray is, I think, the first time that the dub is seeing the light of day.
Jeez, they need to get back on that. I didn't even know that you like the man. Yeah, definitely go check out his Twitch. His Twitch is crazy. It's fun. It's definitely fun. It's definitely good to watch.
Thursday nights are absolute chaos.
The Saturday though, have you played your character in Grand Blue Versus and stuff like that? Like, have you done that?
I've played through the story of Grand Blue Versus, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. I played through 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim not that long ago. Let's see what else.
It's a very underrated
God Eater
game.
3. Yeah. Oh, it's so good. And then a lot of the Nier franchise, Fire Emblem. Yeah. And now I'm making my way through River City Girls, kind of trying to bridge the gap between 13 Sentinels and Monster Hunter coming out. So
fair enough, man. That's great, man. It's always awesome. Hey, well, anyways, once again, thank you so much, Kyle, for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Guys, thank you for listening. As always, you can always check us out on any podcast services out there at the end of each week to check out each episodes and hear awesome people like Kyle on Pop Culture Gems, or go to our YouTube channel, the CFG channel, to watch the video format of this. And just all you have to do is just give us a like or subscribe to the channel, and you will not miss any further episodes. Well, this is Davis signing off from Con Freaks and Geeks, and y'all take it easy. Perfect. All right.